Happy 2022 to Algebra. We are wrapping up our unit actually, first day back, our last objective here. Writing the equation of specific parallel or perpendicular lines. So we're actually looking at PO29, which is the one we did before break, talking about what makes lines parallel, what makes them perpendicular, along with PO24, which is where we wrote the equations of lines in slope-intercept form. So going all the way back to PO24, what do we need? What information do we need to know or need to find out to write an equation in slope-intercept form? The two things that we need to either know or find out to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Joey, give me one of them. Slope is one of them. And the other one is, Claire? The y-intercept. Okay? Those are the two pieces of information that you need to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Now, back in PO24, we did this where I gave you two ordered pairs. You had to find the slope, then plug an ordered pair in to solve for b. Maybe I gave you the slope directly. You just had to plug something in to solve for b. I gave an xy table. You had to find the slope. Right, there are four different ways we kind of worked with this here. This objective is going to focus on the parallelity and perpendicularity of the lines that we're working with. Okay? So the first one. It says, write the equation of the line describing the slope-intercept form. Show your work. Parallel to y equals 2x plus 7 and passes through 5, 2. We were told that we need to find the slope and we need to find the y-intercept to write this equation in slope-intercept form. If our line is going to be parallel to this one here, what will the slope of our line be? If the equation we want to write has a slope that is parallel to y equals 2x plus 7. Alex? It'll be 2. And how do you know that?
Because the slope of the first equation is 2.
There's also 2. And our line's parallel to it. It means the slopes are the same. Right? So even though I'm not directly giving you the slope of the line that we're going to write here, if you know what parallel means and how that affects the slope, I kind of am. Okay? The slope of our line will be 2 because the original line that we're parallel to also has a slope of 2. How do we get the y-intercept now? Wait, I heard a wait. Is there someone with the question? You're good? You sure? Okay. Damien, how do we get the y-intercept here?
Did you get that 2 from the things that we were doing before, like what a parallel line is?
Yes, exactly that. If I know that my line's parallel to this one, and this line's got a slope of 2, my line will also have a slope of 2. Okay, because they have to be the same. That's what makes them parallel. Right? How do we get the y-intercept here? Kylie?
You have to plug in the order pair 5, 2 to the x and the y in the equation.
Right. Once we get the slope, we're straight back to PO24, where we want to write this equation in slope-intercept form. We've got our slope of 2, and that ordered pair that our line passes through, that 5, 2, those represent our values for x and for y. So we take the 5 and the 2, we plug them in. 5 goes in for x in slope-intercept form. 2 goes in for y in slope-intercept form. Right? Then we have our slope of 2 that we plugged in for m, and we're solving. Yeah. You tell me. Right? To solve this, we're first multiplying 2 and 5. Right? 2 times 5 is 10. We move that over to the other side using opposite operations. Damon, warning for you there. Okay. Subtract 10 from both sides, and 2 minus 10 is a negative 8.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. You also.
Okay, quick announcement from the principal who knows a lot about technology. If you have a cell phone, it needs to be turned off before you turn it in. So we're having some connectivity issues with Wi-Fi. And what's happening is all of your cell phones are kind of blowing up our school's Wi-Fi, hotspots, Bluetooth. There's too much talking going on in this part of the building, and it's interfering with the WAPs. So, do you have a cell phone on you? If you do, you need to grab it, turn it off, turn it into your teacher. And then if you turned it in and silenced it and locked it, that's not good enough. You have to go turn it off. Does that make sense? Because then you guys aren't able to connect on your devices in the classroom because there's so much cell phone activity in this part of the building. Does that make sense?
So like power it off?
Power it off. Yeah, so it's not talking, it's not connecting to Wi-Fi, it's not connecting to a hotspot.
You've already connected to a hotspot, I believe it's gonna disconnect again.
Right, and what we're seeing is the way it works is things can't communicate because there's so much confusion, because there's so much back and forth going on that people can't get into their homework or Google Classroom because there's so much connection going on with these cell phones right now.
And Mrs. Leach and Mr. Langley can see all that activity, can see hotspots and cell phones that are on, so.
Just disrupting the communication of our school devices.
Does that make sense? So everybody in here has theirs turned in and turned off?
see what
Yeah.
notifications are?
No,
Sure.
No, but Will, we can tell if it's on and if it's causing a ruckus, so that's why I'm giving you a chance to be responsible right now. Before I
Clash
say,
Royale blow.
because guys, there's a serial number and your names on all of your cell phone, when you connect to things, so we can see, it'll say like Will B or whatever. Or it'll say your parents' name, and so we know whose hotspots are giving us issues. So this is your chance to be responsible, so take care of it.
Wait a minute, it's destroyed.
Oh, and now we have more people, yes.
So if I've turned myself off,
I don't want mine off.
how do I tell my talent agent to get a hold of me?
They can call the school office.
Okay.
And then I will politely tell them that there's no talent.
I have the same battery you guys are.
Yeah, right, thank you, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you.
And then your homeroom is turning them in the morning, right?
They have been.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, sorry for that, about 2 minutes of dead air there, but we're back in it now. 3, 2, 1, you are quiet. Joey, what's our final answer here? What if our goal is to write the equation? What is the equation in slope-intercept form?
In slope-intercept form, it's y equals 2x minus 8.
Good. Y equals 2x minus 8. The 2, again, came from the original equation because our line being parallel to that. The slopes have to be the same. The minus 8 came from this process here of plugging in what we knew. We knew what m was. We were given values for x and y and solving for that b. And that's where that minus 8 came from there. That's solving. Okay? The next one. Parallel to y equals negative 10x plus 8 and passes through negative 230. We need the slope. We need the y-intercept. What's the slope of our line going to be? What's the slope of our line going to be, Ellen?
Negative 10.
-10. And again, we know that because our line is parallel to y equals negative 10x plus 8. So it has to have that same slope. Okay? Negative 10. To get the y-intercept, what's our process for this? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Max?
You do 30 equals negative 10 times 2 plus b.
30 equals negative 10 times 2 plus b.
Isn't it negative 2?
Did you say negative 2?
You said negative 32.
Oh.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
said 30 equals.
Yeah, it should be a negative 2. I'll write it down here. 30 equals negative 10 times negative 2 plus b. The negative 2 and the 30 come from this order of pairs, right? We know our line passes through that point, which means negative 2 and 30 has to be a solution to it. So by plugging in negative 2 in for x, 30 in for y, we can get an equation we can solve for here. Multiply first. Negative 10 times negative 2 is positive 20. Subtract 20 from both sides, and we get a value of 10 for b. Okay, anyone confused on this process here?
So then would the answer be y equals negative 10x plus 10?
Yes, y equals negative 10x
Oh yeah.
plus 10.
I'm a nerd.
Okay?
What? You heard me.
Jack, question?
I thought it'd be you divide 30 from both sides. What?
No. What?
So that 30 there not being attached to a variable, that's kind of where we want to move everything to, right? We want to get everything away from the b, right? And so since these are both constants, they're not attached to the variable, we can multiply them first. We just kind of simplify. Negative 10 times negative 2 is positive 20.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay? So then your thought was divide both sides by 30?
Yeah, I thought it was like in PO29. You divide 30 from both sides.
We wouldn't do it here because the 30 isn't attached to the variable. Right? The 30 isn't causing us any issues at all. It's this 20 that's on the same side as the b that we have to move over. And we would do that, folks, Max, we would do that by subtraction. One-step equation, move that 20 over. Okay? The next one, perpendicular to y equals 3x minus 5 and passes through 27.6. What's the slope of our line going to be here? What's the slope of our line? Sophie?
Negative 1/3.
Negative 1/3. Okay, here we have that perpendicularity, right? So that 3 over 1, the slope of the given line is 3 over 1. We want to flip that fraction and then change its sign. So 3 over 1 becomes a negative 1 over 3rd. William, how do we get the y-intercept here?
We get y equals
So starting with y equals mx plus b, which is what we want to write our equation in.
Yeah.
Right? We want to solve for b, which means we must be given values or have values for y, m, and x. Where do they all come from?
negative 5 is m.
Nope. No.
I have a guess.
Damien,
27.
27 is what?
M.
No.
X.
Catherine,
I think it's gonna be 6 equals negative 1/3 times 27 plus b.
yes. Okay. Now, where do these values come from? Right? Our m variable being the slope, we got the slope in our previous step. If the given line is a slope of 3, our line being perpendicular to it, we'll have a slope of negative 1/3. Take that fraction, flip it, change its sign. That's the perpendicular relationship there. Okay? The 27 and the 6, Rowan, this being an ordered pair that our line passes through, means that we can use those values, those x and y values, in the equation. So y being 6, that equals negative 1/3 times our x value, 27, and we're solving for b. What's negative 1/3 of 27? What's positive 1/3 of 27? What goes into 27 3 times? Alex? 9 does, right? Then we want to make it negative since it's negative 1/3 of 27. Whoops. So 6 equals 9 plus b. Negative 9 plus b. And what's our value for b? Ellen? 15. Add 9 both sides. We get 15 to equal b. I've set these up so that this multiplication here will always work out evenly. You're not going to get a fraction. You're not going to get a decimal. So if you're working on these and you get one, you know you did something wrong. Okay, I've set these up so that when you multiply, even when you've got a fraction, you're not going to get a fraction. You're not going to get a decimal. Spirit of Christmas.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so what's our final answer here? What is this equation in slope-intercept form? Someone we haven't heard from yet today, perhaps. A new voice to the mix. Heard from you. Heard from Rowan.
Y equals negative 1/3 or negative 1/3 x plus 15.
Yes, negative 1/3, negative 1/3. Either way is fine to say it. But yes, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 15. Claire.
Oh, no, I wasn't writing it.
Very well.
Just mad at myself.
Oh, Okay. All right. Other questions, comments, concerns, complaints, comments, congratulations, criticisms? Yes.
Can you do the last three?
No, you are going to do those on your own for practice for homework. Yes, Alex? The very last one on the page?
Yeah.
Well, before I scroll down, any other questions on the notes that I have up here?
No.
Otherwise, they're going to disappear. No? Okay. The last ones say write an equation that is parallel and an equation that is perpendicular to the given line. So for starters here, Alex will start the last one. That's what you asked for here. What's the equation of the given line? Think back to last unit, unit 3, where we were given a line and we wrote the equation in slope-intercept form. What do we need to write an equation in slope-intercept form? We still need the slope and you need the y-intercept. So looking at this line that's been graphed, what's the slope? How does it move across the coordinate plane? Alex? Nope, not up 1 over 1, up 1 over 2, right? So our given line has a slope of up 1 over 2, right? Follow it here, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. There's the slope. What's the y-intercept? -1. Okay? It crosses the y-axis at -1. So the original line has an equation of y equals 1/2 x minus 1. Okay? Found the slope by counting up and over. Found the y-intercept by looking at where it crosses the y-axis. We need to find to write the equation of a line that's parallel, which means what?
The same.
Same
Number.
slope. Should we have the same y-intercept too?
No.
No. If we pick the same y-intercept and the same slope, then it's just rewriting the exact same line, right? It's not parallel to itself, right? It's got to be parallel to a different line. So your slope will be the same. Your y-intercept will have to change, and you can pick whatever you want. You want it to cross at +7, even though it's off the corner plane? Great. You want to write -4? Great. Right? But something other than -1, otherwise it's just the same exact line. Tyler.
For perpendicular, do the y-intercepts have to be like specific or?
So for perpendicular, what do we know about the slope? What would the slope of our perpendicular line be?
-1.
Tyler? -2, right? Our given line has a slope of +1/2. So perpendicular is going to be flip the fraction. It becomes 2 over 1. And we change the sign. So it's going to be a -2 over 1. Right? And Kylie's question is, do we have to pick a different y-intercept for that? And the answer is no. Since we changed the slope, we can pick the same y-intercept because that just means that our two lines will cross at the same spot, but they're going to be perpendicular. It's still not the same line. So the only one you have to change the y-intercept for is the parallel line. Okay? You can pick whatever y-intercept you want to. I gave you what the slope of the perpendicular line is going to be, right? From there, you can pick whatever y-intercept you want. Alex?
So we don't have to regraph it?
No. It says write an equation, not graph it. If you want to graph it, you sure can. All right. This is going to be a homework for tomorrow. The rest of PO29. We'll pick up with that then. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry it was such a crazy morning with me being late and everything, but like I said, never a dull moment as a parent. So, questions on this? Comments, concerns, complaints, comments, congratulations, criticisms. All right, that is how you math in 2022.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.